It's not a walkthrough, playthrough, review, anything like that. It's just me playing the game badly so you can see what it looks like. Okay, this is F1 Grand Prix on the SNES. It's a Japanese only game. I just loaded it up. Never played it before, don't know anything about it. A lot of the text on it is in Japanese, so I ain't got a clue. This is interesting, just seeing these team names, because I remember some of them and they're not around anymore. McLaren obviously still about, there's Ferrari, there's Williams, Tyrrell were then, who took over Tyrrell? Was it, oh god. I could, if I think about it, remember the, which team took over which team. Tyrrell was either, did it go to be BAR, which was then Honda, which was then, what's the name? Oh god, I've forgotten his name, and is now Mercedes. And if it's not, it is now, think. It went on to be Team Stewart, which went on to be Jaguar, which went on to be Red Bull. It's one of those, but I can't remember which. We're going to be McLaren. Okay. I'm guessing that's Senna and Berger. Can't tell. If it's not Berger, it's Patrese. Can't remember what Patrese looks like, but I think that was Gerhard Berger. This looks interesting. I don't think I've ever seen Mode 7 look kind of curvy like that, as in it's like you're going up a hill or something. That's interesting. Yeah, we'll have one lap. Champ, yeah, okay. Yes, all of that, totally agree. Can we go? I hope I've... God blimey. Okay. Oh, okay. Right. I don't know where I'm going. I think I like this. I mean, I'm going to be terrible at it. But it's interesting to see Mode 7 being used in a way that's not like a forced perspective. Top-down Mode 7 is kind of cool in a sort of simplistic kind of way. I don't as a rule like top-down racers, but this is amusing. Oh. That's not the kind of pit wall entry I was looking for. I didn't want to go into the pits or the wall. Oops. You bugger off, Burger. I'll have a quarter pounder with cheese. That's my kind of burger. Big Macs are alright, but there's something just lacking about them. And they fall apart. Can you possibly eat a Big Mac without having half of the lettuce land in your lap? I don't think it's possible, and that's just annoying. Quarter pounder, no problem, that stays in one piece. Mind you, it just reminds me of I'm reminded of the scene in Daredevil that I've been watching recently, Series 3, with Fisk eating his burger with a knife and fork. And I've got to say, this new season of the Marvel TV series that are on Netflix, it's like all of them, their first series was excellent, except Iron Fist, which was shite. And then Defenders was equally shite. Jessica Jones Season 2 was good. Iron Fist Season 2 has left me completely... No, Iron Fist Season 2 I haven't watched. Luke Cage Season 2 I watched about 2-3 episodes and was like, I don't care. Daredevil Season 2 was good, not quite as good as Season 1. They kind of stopped doing the long, like the fight sequence in one take with one camera. and had gone to sort of quick editing, and that was not as good. But this season 3, oh my, yes, it's good. I'm only 3 episodes in, but we've had one, like another fight sequence in a corridor, all in one take, and it's fantastic, and I love that. None of which has anything to do with this game. I got to that through talking about burgers. Gerhard Berger. How do you get from Gerhard Berger to Daredevil fight sequences, eh? Only by watching one of my videos. This is why they pay me the big... No, wait. Oops. I wonder what would have been down that other route. Bugger. Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one who runs into each other. Like, that's not a sentence. Runs into everyone else. They're all just piling into each other and getting in a mess. Their position 17 is not great. You're lucky if you get 17 cars on the circuit these days. Races seem to have more cars back then. Mind you, they're not as bad now. I mean, they got really bad for a while. They were talking about needing to have 3 cars per team just because there weren't enough teams. I remember when you used to have qualifying just to get into the race, not to decide what position you were going to be in, but if you were going to be in it at all, because there were more teams than there were places to fit on the track. When I were a lad. Though then you had the teams that didn't have to qualify. I think it was, if you were in the points, you didn't have to qualify. But if you didn't have any points, you had to qualify. And there were lots of teams who, you know, privateers. Do you remember privateers? That was a thing. You weren't a manufacturer. You weren't a major team with major backing. You were just some little team who had made a car in your shed. And it was good, and you raced it, and it blew up. But people watched, and it was great. And cars exploded and caught fire, and people died, and that was tragic. But by God, you watched. Now, they don't even want you to watch. Bloody... On a network that you're paying to watch the network at all, and then you've got to pay again to watch that channel. I don't think so. Makes me mad. What was it? 15th. And I don't know what car that is. Oops. Were there Saubers at this point? I remember Saubers being black and something. Heinz Harold Frentzen. He drove for them for a bit. He was alright. I kind of liked him. I don't know if that's him. Well, obviously it's not him. That's just a computer sprite. But, you know, representing his car with him driving. Oh. I am somehow drawn to that. And I think I've been lapped by a Ferrari. And that won't be Michael Schumacher. Who was driving for Ferrari back then? You see, if Berger is in the McLaren, then... I liked Ferrari when it was Berger and Patrese. They were great. I mean, they didn't have any luck at all. The car was absolutely shite. But I liked Ferrari when they were underdogs like that. Pre-Schumacher days. Who drove for Ferrari? Piquet. Piquet and Mansell. That was a thing. And Mansell would be grumbling and complaining and saying Piquet got a better car. He was a whingy bastard. Okay. We're only on lap 5 out of 10. I'm going to stop here because in all honesty I'm getting bored now. And my front wing's going to fall off. Okay, let's just keep going and see what happens if my front wing falls off. Will it actually fall off, or will I just have that flashing thing up there on the left? Probably. I'm actually trying to break it now to see what happens. I don't think anything will happen. I like the blue flag to tell me I'm being overtaken by a faster car, which is everyone. A P15. I've been passed by it. Oh, look, my car's gone red. We will see what happens if I break it, because I'm oh, there you go. Did the race end, or was it, yeah, or I was just disqualified for knackering my car? That is interesting, and I think if I was taking it seriously, no. Brawn? You see that? That's the team that I was trying to remember the name of. It was being run by Ross Brawn, but I think that Brawn there was like the advertising for the shaver. But it answered the question, who took over from Honda? It was Brawn, who then became Mercedes. That's just handy. Okay, and is that who bought out, is that where, was that Tyrrell, or was Tyrrell Red Bull? It's one of them, and I don't remember which. Okay, shutting up now. Thank you for watching. Hello. Today's question for Q&A is from Wiseman, or Wiseman. I'm going to say Wiseman. Why not? Link to his channel down there. For Q&A, how do you like polygonal graphics as opposed to super scalar graphics for racing games? Do you think that 3D graphics benefited the genre right away? How do I like them? I tell you what, I like both. I like super scalar when done well. I like polygonal for entirely different reasons. Also when done well. And are we talking arcade games, or I'm going to say we're talking arcade games, though there are some non-arcade games that are relevant, I think. So super scalar I really like for the sense of speed. There is no realism to speak of, but there is this kind of visual magic that happens on a well-made game using that technology by Sega, largely. Other companies were not quite as good, but I mean, Outrun, I don't actually really like Outrun as a game, but visually it had that wow factor. I played it and it made me go, oh, it really looked good. It felt good. I felt the difficulty was a little bit off on that. I couldn't get very far. Other games, I mean, I didn't play, oh god, what's it called? Power Drift? Power Drift. I never played that in the arcades back in the day, though I have since at Replay and on emulation and stuff like that. But having played it, it's mind-bogglingly impressive. But what I did play was, God, I'm remembering it as the Japanese name now, Gale Racer, but what was it called? Anyway, that game, do you know the one I'm on about? I played that in the arcades and was gobsmacked by it. It was just really impressive because of the speed and the sort of, there was immersion. It simulated a form of 3D in a way that was really quite gobsmacking. But still, there was no realism. And what you had when Polygons came along was realism. It allowed a certain physics, and your movement within the simulated 3D environment was more believable. It didn't necessarily have the speed straight away, because the first game using, well, the first game I played using 3D, it wasn't polygons, it was vectors, was Battlezone. I played other games before that that used vectors that simulated kind of 3D, but wasn't, and that was a game called Speed Freak. It's in my intro sequence, you know, that the game where it's black and white vectors and the car blows up. That, I played that in like the very early 80s, but it wasn't proper 3D. But Hard Driving was probably the first game I could say, racing game, that had 3D polygons in a 3D world, and it did have while it didn't have speed, it had a level of realism. You were in a proper 3D environment, you could drive off the road. that in itself was an innovation. And there was physics. I wouldn't say there were very good physics, but there was physics, and it made for a feeling of realism. I wouldn't say the simulation was especially accurate. It was probably one of the least accurate 3D racing simulations I've ever played, but I like it. And when it came out, I was like, this is the future. I knew it there and then. This was where the future lay in terms of racing games and technology in general, I thought. And then on home systems, Jeff Crammond, F1 Grand Prix, it's like, yeah, this is what I want. At that point, I was not really aware of texture mapping as a thing. But I knew 3D, you know, gimme, I want more of this. And I was aware of Virtua Racing when that came out in the arcades. I never got to play it in the arcades, but I wanted to. My first experience of it was on the 32X, and again it was like, this is excuse me, this is what I want. Though by the time I played it on the 32X, I think I had already played Ridge Racer and seen Daytona. Loved Ridge Racer. Didn't actually really like Daytona. I did play Daytona a couple of times. Didn't really like it. Loved Ridge Racer. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just reminding myself of the question, do I think that 3D polygons benefited the genre straight away? Yes, I do. Absolutely. I think right from the word go, while you didn't necessarily have the speed straight away, it wasn't until Virtua Racing in the arcades. I mean, Formula 1 Grand Prix on my Amiga didn't really have the frame rate when I first played it, because I first played it on an Amiga 600, but by the time you got onto 1200s and accelerated 1200s and you used F1 GP patch, then you had the speed as well. But yes, I think polygons, right from the word go, improved the genre because they added realism. It took a little while to get the speed, but you could see where things were going, and I loved it. I still love Super Scalar. It was weird, actually. I mean, Super Scalar was, as soon as Virtua Racing came out, Super Scalar was deemed irrelevant, and it's kind of why the Saturn had such a rough time, because it was a sprite scaling powerhouse, and that was what it was designed for. But PlayStation went for the 3D route, and that's where arcades were going. As soon as 3D was a thing, scaling was like, we don't want any more of that. So the Saturn died a death because it couldn't do the 3D as effectively, as easily. Yeah. Did it improve the genre straight away? I think so, yes. And I love both, for entirely different reasons. Hope that answers your question. If you would like to ask a question to be answered in a video like this, leave your question in the comments down there. Begin your question with for Q&A, so I know not to just answer it in the comments. And thank you for watching.
So I said, you can just stick that joystick right up your... Oh, hello. I'm Isambard Montague III, and you've been watching Steve Benway, Retro Gaming Collector. If you'd like to see more of his videos, click the subscribe button. And if you'd like to catch up with some of his 1500 videos in his back catalogue, have a look through his playlists. Right, that'll be 50 quid.